over the fact that you're a black person, whether you're gay or straight.
But you... Okay.
Or whatever that is. Like, you're a black person. Like, a white person is just, I'm white. Like, black people...
Yeah, so, a black straight male and a black gay male, they're both black at the end of the day. But being a black gay person, that's just even... because not only...
I feel like that's the pain. I feel like we're just playing the pain Olympics. Like, which one's worse? Like...
But I'm not trying to say what's worse, but you're trying to say like, oh, like just completely like gay people's like at all. And it's like you're erasing that there's gay black people.
I'm not erasing that.
So are you saying that they, you know?
I'm saying you can be gay and white, and
and you have privilege,
and you have privilege. You can be gay and black, or
don't
gay and
have
straight,
privilege.
and either way, you're black. You don't have any privilege,
right?
So whether you're gay or not is irrelevant in that aspect. It's not irrelevant to you because you are gay, but as far as we all black together. If the Klan rolls in, they're not going to pick out, okay, you're gay, you're black, I'm going to kill you
they're
first.
They're going to be like,
oh,
you're black, and not only you're black, but you're gay.
But not everybody who's gay.
But he's probably going to get more of a cruel...
It's not obvious, though. Like, not every... gay person is just outwardly flamboyant.
True, but word gets around. If you're getting humped by the Ku Klux Klan, most likely you in a small town and down south. Right. Yes, true. It's come on now.
They had alt-right people roll out to Maxine Waters' office.
All right people,
this
not
is L.A.
All right people, not KKK.
They're the same thing. Alt-right, white supremacists, they're all in the same group. They just call themselves different things, but they're all in the same group. Like disabled people, they could say, you didn't hire me because I'm disabled. Boom, that's on lock. Like those are legit lawsuits. It's different when you're in the NFL or these sports that make all this money and have a brand, and this is their brand, and they're kind of conservative on the back end, and they don't really care about women getting beat up, and they don't really care about they care about getting all these elite athletes, but they don't really care about that athlete's background and what they went through to get to where they're at. And if part of that background involves being gay or just being black coming from the hood, that takes a back seat to the bottom line. So when it comes to that level, there just comes to a certain level in society where it doesn't matter if you're gay, straight, or whatever. One, if you're black or if you're just non-white, there's almost a glass ceiling there. And two, like if you come out and you're openly who you are, whether you're gay, trans, whatever, and you're black, they throw that right back in your face. And that's because you're black, not because you're gay. Because Milo, that gay white dude, everybody says he's canceled, but he's still getting bags out here and checks out here.
Right.
And he said all types of racist shit.
Because he has that white privilege, but
which black people don't have, whether they're gay or not. So when it comes to like the whole disability versus being gay thing, I think there's not really much. That's not the lane that should be pigeonholed into. Like you shouldn't fight your way in and say, well, look, like we have the same struggles as black people do. But
no, I'm not saying no. I was not trying to say they had the same struggles. I'm not. Again, that's what I'm saying. I wasn't trying to equate the two. It's just.
But I do understand what you're saying.
I'm just saying that we're in a society now where I feel like we'll be that much more progressive. How is it that we're being much more progressive? Which is, I'm not trying to knock it and say, well, I'm pointing fingers and saying, oh, you let the disabilities people in, but why not the gay people? I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it's crazy to think that we're way more progressive and we turn a blind eye still, that there's these other issues in the back, like you say, even the domestic violence, like they try to hush that down. It's like, it's so crazy that like just to spot those things out in the NFL, like.
Yeah, I mean, it's.
For the people out there, I'm definitely not trying to equate the two. I'm not saying one person's struggle equates to the other. Wasn't that? I was just saying that I thought us being progressive and them, like, it's a cool route, but is it like, why is it that it's still like a hoopla that somebody like Colin Kaepernick is standing against, the NFL by taking a kneel, and there's so much uproar. And that's what I'm saying. I'm not trying
That's
to point it
black.
to, but it's just crazy. Like, we can be progressive in one way, but not others. And then it's like, it's cool. We should have been doing that a long time ago. I'm not trying to tell them no, they can't. They shouldn't be in the NFL and that they don't have struggles. But I'm saying, like, it's just so crazy that we pick and choose when to be progressive. And it's like we can open so much more doors and so much more opportunities, but instead it's like,
but I mean,
yeah,
when it comes down to it, that's a generational fight, because I don't see the answer to that question being solved in my lifetime.
Yeah.
I just don't see it. Because if we're not going to sit up here and right the wrongs of slavery and everything that's been done to black people, and we're not going to right the wrongs that have been done to Latinos and other groups in this country, and we're not going to hold white people accountable for all the shit they do, and we're not going to address the, like, permanent wealth
we're going to get back to that. That's going to be, I'll get to that later.
Yeah, like, see, all these things are nice on the surface, but it's impossible to answer at one time. But back to the point, the fact that Daniels is starting and the fact that he is playing defense and has to get to the quarterback and is going to be a linebacker, edge rusher, and he's blind in his right eye.
That's dope.
Made it to the league and is going to get his shot. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, no, I think that's dope as fuck, though.
Like, sports will reveal a lot about your character and who you are. Like, adversity really reveals who you are, but in this case, like, I hope the dude balls out. And they already got Shaq Barrett on the other side. He's, like, leading the league in sacks, or he's up there. So, it's interesting to see what even though the Buccaneers are trash and it's a dumpster fire, but with Todd Bowles and that staff, and by the way, Bruce Arians has, like, a staff full of black coaches on his staff, which is, like, one of the dopest things I've seen in the NFL, because there's so many black head coaches who could be getting jobs and should be getting jobs at the college level, and that just doesn't happen. And in some spaces, it doesn't happen with high school sports, but that's a whole nother issue. That's a whole nother something. But anyway, one more thing as far as, like, breaking news. Colorado became the 19th state to legalize sports gambling of some sort. I'm going to just shelf that story because I know Pete's definitely going to want to talk about it. So, on to college football. This one saddens me to talk about this story. And we were kind of already talking about race. Florida State fired Willie Taggart a year and a half into his contract. The Booster Club reportedly raised about $20 million to buy out his contract in, like, a day. Now, aside from the racial terroristic violent threats that this man has gotten against him, his coaching staff, his family, I think somebody tried to leave a noose in his office. A bunch of crazy stuff has happened to Willie Taggart. And it was a really great article that I saw, or it talked about Willie Taggart. Yeah, he didn't win on the field, but he left Florida State in a much better place. Because they went 7-5 his first year, and they were kind of on track to having a losing season this year. And they've gone like 0-6 against Miami, Florida, and a couple other, like, key opponents. And you got to beat your rivals in Florida, in the state of Florida. And I think them losing to Boise State at home was probably almost a nail in his coffin. The fact that they lost to Boise State, a school that's been around for so long and isn't in a Power 5 conference than the Mountain West. They were like the Pac-12 or the Big 12, whatever. I think it would be different. But Boise State and schools like that have been purposely left on the outside. And the fact that you lose to a school like that when you're Florida State and you have all these resources, all this money, all this talent, and he didn't land a top flight high school quarterback recruiting wise, but as Jimbo Fisher said when he was asked about it, you know, he took on a huge mess. I can't speak on, you know, as to why he got fired. You'd have to ask the people there in the office that. But he's a great guy, and I feel really bad for him. Now, if we look at what Jimbo Fisher, how he left Florida State and what he left Florida State in, they missed a bowl game. I think they went 7-5 as last year. Or they missed a bowl game with the Willie Taggart, if I'm not mistaken. But they went 7-5 his last year. There were so many arrests. I can think of like 6 guys under Jimbo Fisher who got arrested and kicked off the team and ended up on Last Chance U. At least 6 different guys. And some of them, almost all of them in the NFL. Some guys are kind of elsewhere. 3 of them are like quarterbacks. But when I think about the fact that he helped raise their graduation rate, it's one of the tops in the nation. He brought back, you know, credibility and integrity to a program that really didn't have any once Jimbo Fisher just left, because multiple reports and stories came out that pretty much Jimbo just said, just make sure the players are eligible to play. Just make sure they're eligible to play. We can get the field. And they underperformed, and they're like 3-4 years removed from a national title. And Jalen Ramsey came out and said, Jimbo Fisher never really coached me like that. My DB coaches did that. Jimbo Fisher don't get no credit from me. Which was interesting. And a couple former Florida State players would come out and speak on and say, you know, like, yeah, pretty much Jimbo Fisher dropped the ball those last couple of years. He was just going through the motions, and here you hire Willie Taggart, the first black head coach in the history of Florida State, because they had Bobby Bowden and then Jimbo Fisher. There haven't been a lot of head coaches in Florida State history, and we already know how racist the South is with Florida, and the fact that a black man, an alumni of Florida State, if I'm not mistaken, gets the job. He gets inherited a huge mess, doesn't even get a chance to turn it around, and this is what happens with a lot of black head coaches. They get handed a shit show of a program. They turn it around, fix it. They don't win as much as everybody else. And then what does the school do? Go hire a white coach, and then that white coach wins with a bunch of somebody else's players that a black coach recruited and groomed and put in place. Like, he put ethical standards in place at Florida State, and for him to be fired not even 2 years into his contract, like, that's disrespectful. And it shows that, like, that's the half-ass effort that I'm talking about and Pete's talked about when we talk about black head coaches getting a fair shake in college football, when most of the athletes are black, but most of the coaches are all white. And retreads. They're talking about Greg Schiano going back to Rutgers to win because they've been so bad. And this is their 150th season of playing football, and they suck. Like, they suck bad. Like, there are high school teams who would beat the shit out of Rutgers in football. I'm convinced. And to see that this man, yeah, he got his $20 million, and yeah, he did what any other white coach has done, where you build up a program, you win, and then you get a better opportunity. He built up a program at South Florida, won, got the job at Oregon, built up a program at Oregon, left to go to Florida State. People get mad at him like that's not the job you should take. They're talking about getting Urban Meyer to coach Florida State, which with all the illegal stuff he's done, that's amazing to me. But that's the thing I don't like, is that with these black head coaches in college, they're on a leash. You can go back to Tyrone Willingham when he was at Notre Dame, Washington. Like, they give you a couple years to turn the program around, but then let's say right when you could win or whatever, they take it from you. And then they give it right back to a white dude. And that's not even, oh, no, he wasn't in the coaching tree. He didn't do the right amount of, networking. That's bullshit. Like, I think the only, like, Eric Bieniemy, the offensive coordinator for the Chiefs, I don't even think he's gotten any head coaching looks. I mean, yeah, Brian Flores was the only one. All the black head coaches that were in the NFL, like last year, they all got fired. And a bunch of white coaches replaced them. And when you look at the Willie Taggart situation, Who knows if he even gets another head coaching job